right, welcome back to DQP Does Blade Runner 2049, part of our Cyberpunk series. This is a sort of direct sequel to Blade Runner. What is it actually 30 years later? Yeah, because Blade Runner was 87, right?
Yep. And this was...
Or no, it was 82.
Or yeah, it was 82.
82, yeah.
Yeah, so 35 years.
35 years.
But in story, it was 30 years later.
Yeah, which is 30 years from now. So let's talk a little bit about the cast. We had Harrison Ford coming back as Deckard. We have Ryan Gosling as Kay, or Joe, I guess. Anna de Armas as Joy. Dave Bautista as Sapper Morton. Robin Wright as Lieutenant Joshi. Did they ever actually pronounce that?
I don't think so.
I don't remember. Let's see. Some actually important characters. David Dastmalchian. Fuck. God damn it, David.
Have a better last name.
Send us a video of you pronouncing your fucking last name as Coco. He was the one that got smoked by Love.
Yep. Okay.
Love was played by Sylvia Hoeks. Edward James Olmos was back as Gaff, ever so briefly. Jared Leto was Neander Wallace. Let's see who else was actually important. Mackenzie Davis was Mariette, the hooker, prostitute, whatever is, however you want to call that.
Working girl.
And I think that was most of the important characters.
So I want to talk about Harrison Ford. Real quick.
Well, first we got to wait 2 hours.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, as we were watching it,
Oh, wait. This was the first time that Nathan and I had watched this.
Yes.
Speaking of which, it's your host Shane, Nathan, and Russell.
Look, there's nobody new.
The normal suspects. We don't have any special guests, so I don't have to introduce anyone. Hopefully by this time, this isn't your first fucking podcast that you've listened to us talk. If it is, you should at least go back and listen to the Blade Runner one before you listen to this one.
Yes, because my point with Harrison Ford, we talk about in Blade Runner. Now, Deckard in Blade Runner was a very interesting character, and we talked about him being different and how Harrison Ford's early acting career, he was characters.
He wasn't just playing himself.
Yeah. So, like, in this movie, I feel like this is a good representation of... I don't know that Harrison Ford remembers how to act as much as he just shows up and is himself.
Get off my plane.
Yeah. So have you guys ever watched him on like a late night show?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's, it might be kind of like we talk about in wrestling a little bit, where somebody just turns their own personality up to 100,
right?
Or over 100 to become a character, right?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming
up to a 10, yes.
Yeah, you just go up to a 10, and that's your wrestling character. That's how I feel like he acts in these late night shows.
Yes,
and that's how I feel like he acts now.
Yeah,
just in movies.
Yes,
he's always just himself at 10.
Yeah,
not in the last, and it was a terrible movie, but the last Indiana Jones movie, he did act like Indy a little bit.
But I think that's like him on an 8.
Okay, fair enough.
I that's
I'll
what I
give you
think.
that.
Like, because it's kind of like him at an 8 is Indy and Han, right?
Well, let's just break it down real fast and really think. Did you guys ever watch 6 Days, 7 Nights?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where he was stranded on an island? How is that any different than the character we just saw in that movie?
It's not.
Right.
It's the exact same.
It's not, yeah.
As
exactly.
Air Force One.
Yep.
Or any movie where he's older.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. This definitely started in the 90s with him.
Oh, I really liked Air Force One and 6 Days, 7 Nights, actually. So.
Yeah, but every movie we liked, though.
Yeah,
that's the funny part.
I mean, I love him, and I love every character that he plays, but he definitely is now like just set in there. Everybody's like, well, we need Indy, or they're like, we need Indy, or we need Han, but they get Harrison Ford, which is the same fucking thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not knocking him for it because
No.
he's made a pretty, brilliant career out of it here in the last, 20 years.
He's amazing. It's
yeah.
just he's one note amazing,
Yeah.
So
which isn't a problem.
He's
It's
just a grumpy old man.
yeah.
In every
I mean,
movie.
he's fucking what, 70-some years old now,
Yeah.
like 72.
Yeah, I think so.
and he can
'cause-
still throw haymakers, baby.
He still looks like Indy fucking throwing those fucking haymakers. That's all I could think. That whole fight scene was just like, it's Indy. Where's the like noise when he
Yeah.
fucking punches somebody? This is like my favorite noise ever. That's where I learned how to make noises for my action figures and shit, was Indiana Jones and stuff like that, where it all sounded like, I don't know, like somebody clapping their hands with a bunch of bass added or something. That's what it
Right.
sounds like when you punch somebody. But yeah, Harrison Ford, one note, but awesome at that one note.
Yes.
And it is slightly different than the Deckard that we know, or that we knew from the original Blade Runner, but he is also 30 years older
Yeah.
and has been living in solitude.
Yeah.
Right? All he's had is this dog.
Yeah, I mean it fits.
Yeah. It's just different.
It's just I wanted to use it as the example for
Yeah.
anyone listening and maybe watching these movies as we watch them.
So we covered I keep wanting to call him Han or Indy. We covered Harrison Ford. What about Ryan Gosling?
So your guys' first watch on this movie. I definitely want to get into that. This is the third time I've seen the movie.
Okay.
I watched it when it came out into theaters. Loved Blade Runner forever, and I was very hesitant that I was going to enjoy this movie.
Yeah, so was I.
Just because I mean the trailers didn't really make it look. The trailers made it look way more fast paced. And going into the movie, I wanted a slow burn. I wanted something that was an homage to the first Blade Runner movie.
Right.
So then the announcement that Ryan Gosling would be playing the lead character, all I could think was, please let him do the thing he did in Drive.
Yeah.
I was like, that's what I want. That's the Ryan Gosling I love.
Yeah.
Because he has that particular one note that he does, and
Well, he has a few, and he shows a few of them in this movie. But
yeah,
for the majority of the movie, the one that you particularly enjoy is where he's at. Like he's right in that groove.
Yeah, he's got that on the verge of an emotional breakdown, stoic look.
Yeah,
and that I love I love that acting when he.
What
does
was the mean tweet from Jimmy Kimmel? It was like, Ryan Gosling always looks like he's trying to fart silently. Something like that.
Yeah. So then I saw the movie, and I was 10 minutes into the movie. I was just like ready. I was like, okay. I was like, this is taking forever to get to where it's going.
Yes.
And then Ryan Gosling is doing the thing I wanted him to do.
Right.
And then when he does have to have those emotional reactions, which he's a replicant.
Right.
So like the way he does it and goes back and forth and is trying to not have those emotional reactions, I also super enjoy. This is probably my favorite acting job that I've seen Ryan Gosling do.
Yeah.
And prior to this, it was Drive.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I really liked how you could tell that he was supposed to be a replicant, and then when he starts thinking that he's not, he just has that breakdown with the girl that makes the memories, and like he just flips the fuck out.
Yeah.
And it was explosive, and it was very good. My favorite scene though is still him and Harrison talking, just talking. It was so good.
Yeah,
because like you could see he was trying to go a certain way with the conversation, and Harrison like wasn't seeing, or like his Deckard wasn't seeing it. and he was like begrudgingly answering these questions that he didn't want to answer and everything. It was just a really good scene. Their chemistry there was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yep. No, I really liked Ryan Gosling's character in general because I get what you were saying. Like, he definitely had a replicant like look and act and feel to the character.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, as the story progresses, he's humanized a little bit. And I think that comes out a lot from Joy, you know,
Yeah.
because essentially like with the AI hologram.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when he does have that moment with Harrison Ford, because you are led to believe
Right.
that that's his father. And you kind of like that whole scene was just probably the best part of the whole movie.
Yeah.
And
I think it for sure was. I mean,
then they definitely trick you.
the next
They
best
got me.
I think was them on the steps at the end. They talk
That was
for a
good.
second,
Yeah.
and then he lays down to die, and Harrison doesn't know. And I think that was pretty great. Just the acting and stuff. That's one of the better death scenes.
Yeah.
No,
'cause
absolutely.
Most actors are terrible at dying.
Yeah.
Chris
Yeah.
Evans.
Who was that?
Chris Evans. Do you remember we talked shit about him like dying in Age of Ultron in the Vision?
But that was Tony's look
Yeah,
of
I
how he
know.
would die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I like your headcanon better.
Oh no,
but I don't.
it wasn't mine that I came up with. It was you motherfuckers that came up with it.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm gonna go with that.
I don't think that's what it was. I think he was just a bit like, you could have saved us.
I think the director was like, "All right, this is the part where you're dying," and Chris Evans was like, "What?
What the fuck ever? Captain America forever."
Making this unbelievable."
Let's think about how many times Harrison Ford has died. I can think of one,
Oh, I mean,
and it's not a fair comparison because he's only done it once on screen that I can think of. And I don't know. I just
surely it's been more than.
You talking about
Is it
Force
more than
Awakens?
once?
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
sure he's died more than once on camera, but
Why?
I
He's
can't
Harrison
think.
fucking Ford.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, I mean, so you even take an actor like Harrison Ford, and he's even bad at dying.
That was just a bad scene. Okay.
Well,
Fuck that movie. There's only 3 Star Wars movies.
Think that
4.
you just
There's
shouldn't
4.
overact
4.
it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And he didn't. Maybe it's because he's a really good actor or he's a real shitty actor. I don't know.
I don't know. I think Tom Holland needs to teach everyone how to die.
Well, I mean,
No.
that was like a
Oops.
tearjerker, but like it was still overdone.
You
I'll
think
say it.
so?
Yeah.
Dude, I think it was fucking perfect. Because he's a kid. But anyway,
Sebastian Stans was.
He's a fucking adult.
was good.
Yeah, this was good. Anyway,
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess he is an adult. He's a kid in the movie, though.
Sebastian Stan's death
mm-hmm.
in Infinity War?
Yep.
He was just.
You go back and watch it. It's good.
He just slowly fell.
Yeah, but it's
It's
He
good.
just- he
Watch.
just
You gotta
good
watch
fell.
his face and stuff. Yeah, it's
I
good.
guess I'll have to look
you
at
gotta
it.
watch it. All right.
But no, I agree with you. The Ryan Gosling death scene in this is definitely one of the best
Yeah.
death scenes.
I was like watching it, and I'm like, he's still blinking in the snow. Are they gonna just be like, yeah, he's dead, but he's still blinking? And then he did like the fucking like death muscle spasm tense up,
Yeah.
and then stopped blinking, and I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, he's I really like him as an actor.
Fucking Cassie took offense to me saying his head was oddly shaped. She's like, no, he's perfect.
Yeah, well, I mean,
he's a good looking guy, but he has a weird shaped head.
He's
I'm
just
sorry.
forever perfect because he did the Notebook, guys. Come on.
Whatever.
yeah.
He's done a lot of other roles that have been really good that I've liked. You know, so
Yeah, whatever.
So What did you guys think of Jared Leto?
That guy's fucking weird. Did he send used condoms to people on this one?
I don't think so.
I was just curious.
He probably plucked out
felt
eyes and sent them.
felt them all up and stuff. He was like, "I'm blind, right?" I go, "Oh, titties."
I could see Harrison Ford throwing a real punch in him.
Oh yeah, fucking
and I'd love that.
knock him down. I didn't like the first scene he was in. It felt super weird and like bad.
Yeah.
And then the other scenes with Wallace felt more legit. Maybe because we were more informed of what the character was supposed to be like.
Right.
But I just feel like the first scene, the character wasn't quite there yet, and then all the scenes after that were a lot better.
Yeah. I had a couple issues with the acting, not necessarily the character.
No, I mean like the acting, his hold of the character
right
in the first scene wasn't as strong as it was later, I guess is what I
Right.
meant to say.
Yeah, no, I get that. Just kind of in general, like Jared Leto is either when I'm watching him act, it's either he's 100 or he's 5.
Yeah.
Like he's one of the two spectrums.
I think
I
he
don't
went
feel
between
like
the two in
has-
this movie.
You think so?
Yeah,
I didn't-
I thought he was really good in the last scene because it was basically like this kind of cool and collected but very odd character trying
Yeah.
to interrogate someone, but not in the normal, like, good cop, bad cop kind of way. Because he
Right.
was both, but he wasn't like yelling or hitting or anything like that. It was just
Right.
like, pleasure or pain. Which way do you want me to convince you to get this information out of you? But not even with as much inflection as I just put in it,
Right.
because that was the character. So
Yeah.
I think he did really well at the end of the movie, but not so much in the beginning and the middle.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It got better as the movie goes on. I still think he did. I would have liked for him to just been a little bit more subtle, I guess, instead of because he's supposed to be an eccentric guy, and I
Yeah.
get that. But I also felt like some of it was forced, like even throughout the movie. And I
Mhm.
mean, the last interaction we get with him is definitely the best one.
Right.
Where it's him and Harrison Ford, and that one's not as bad, but there are still some lines that because this movie is such a slow burn that like every line hits
Yeah.
a certain button, right? And so some of the lines I just thought were delivered weird,
Yeah.
and it also might just be because like I struggle with his character changes the tone of the movie when he's in the
it.
scene.
Yeah. So
So
you brought up that the movie's a slow burn.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah,
I think it's poorly done slow burn. Because in the first Blade Runner and one of my favorite movies, Chinatown, and a lot of really good westerns, the world building wasn't there as
Right.
much as it was in Blade Runner.
Mhm.
Specifically. And then a lot of times on like a slow burn movie, it'll give you something to think about beforehand. And sometimes it wasn't there in this.
Right.
Because sometimes it was just like, we're going to just have a long establishing shot here.
Yeah.
As opposed to like in Blade Runner or like Chinatown or something, you just got a tidbit of information that will like lead you spiraling
Right.
through your own theories. And your own thoughts about what's going on and
Right.
who's doing what or whatever. Or, in particular, this movie, I think it could have done a better job of making you question if he was the kid, if Kay was the kid or not.
Right.
Instead of trying to make you fucking sure that
Yeah.
Kay was the kid.
Yeah. I
Because-
have issues with this movie.
And I think that was like my biggest problem with this movie was that it was slow, but not in a good way. It was like instead of a slow burn where the fuse is always lit, it's just burning slowly. It would burn and then it would stop and somebody would come up and light it again and be like, no,
Right.
seriously, watch it burn. And then it
Yeah.
would burn for a little bit and it would stop and then
Yeah.
somebody would come up and light it again. So I think that's the big difference between this and Blade Runner.
Yeah. So I agree with basically everything that you just said. The biggest issue with this movie is, and so Ridley Scott was an executive producer on this movie.
Right.
He sat in the writer's room and helped them write it. In an interview, he claimed that half the script was his and isn't credited for any of the script. And so in the interview, he says something along the lines of, I'm not actually, like, I wrote half that script, but I can't actually claim it because I didn't have a tape recorder on me to prove that I wrote half that script. So there's some interesting stuff surrounding Ridley Scott and
That's
this
fucking
version
weird.
of the movie. Dennis, is his name Dennis? How do I say his last name? Villanuevo. He asked Ridley Scott to leave the set a couple of times because I assume, I mean, what's alluded to is that,
Yeah.
and Ridley even says that he thought that whether or not Ryan Gosling's character Kay, it should have been less prevalent that he was a replicant and less prevalent that he was quote unquote the kid.
Right.
So Ridley, I really like.
And I think that would have made the movie better because you would have been thinking about it.
Yeah. Instead of just being convinced,
Right.
you know, because Nathan said that it got him, which when I watched it, it got me too. Because I was like, okay, I mean, he's whatever, he's the kid. That's kind of lame because
Yeah, it's too perfect.
2 hours of a mystery and whatever. But then it turns, and I was like, okay, I mean, I like that better, but there's
See, I was thinking that the girl was
Dennis.
the sister, but they were actually what they fudged was the DNA. So there were actually two. And that's
Yeah.
why there had to be a C-section. That's what I thought when he met
Right.
her and he showed her the memory. And she was like, somebody lived this,
Yeah.
but then it was just her and not him.
Yeah.
Which that's fine. It's a better swerve, I guess.
Yeah, so Ridley Scott also said after the movie released, in the first interview he did, the first interviewer that was like, so what do you think? He was like, it's too fucking long.
Yeah.
And he said, and I agree with him, and especially on this watch, because I read that stuff before we watched it. There's about 20 minutes that could be cut from this movie.
At least.
Yeah, well, he said 20, and I'm assuming some of the stuff he's talking about is like some of the long shots that don't really matter.
Right.
That could have just been shortened. Like I like the shot in the beginning where he's flying over
LA.
the farm.
Or no, the farm.
Yeah, all the farm stuff.
Yeah.
I really like that shot because it's the beginning of the movie. It's reminiscent
It's
of
world
Blade
building
Runner.
too, because
Yeah.
you've never seen anything like that yet.
Right. And it's reminiscent of the opening Blade Runner shot
Right.
where the cars flying through the city.
Right.
So there's some really good parallels here. And I would say it's a successful sequel
Yeah.
because it's not so bad that like I hate it.
No, I don't
'Cause I
think it's
really enjoy
I don't think
it.
it's actually bad.
Yeah.
But we rated Blade Runner. You and I rated Blade Runner 9.9.
Oh yeah.
Nathan gave it 2 open bags of airplane peanuts, for God's fucking sake.
It was just one.
I thought you gave sorry, just one.
Yeah.
Sorry. One.
That's all you get on the flight.
Well, I apologize.
Now, this was a longer flight, so I don't know.
Yeah, you probably got a meal.
Yeah.
You at least could have fit like 2 $15 Heinekens in.
Let's not talk about it yet. We're not there yet.
But you know, this is not a 9.9,
No.
but it's not a 5 either.
Right.
You know, it's not Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
It was way better than that. The
Yeah.
story was cohesive and all the plot points were connected.
Yeah.
For the most part. So
I just feel like there's some flaw. I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head with what's wrong with this movie. Like
yeah.
there's slow burn, but
Right.
then it fizzles out,
Yeah.
and it waits a few minutes before someone comes back in
Right.
and relights it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a really good. I feel like that's the perfect way to explain what's wrong with this movie.
Yeah.
Because aside from that, I don't really feel like there's much wrong with this movie.
I think there's a little bit of placating to a more modern audience with there's a lot more action in this movie than there is in Blade Runner.
I would say there's more violence. I don't know that I'd call it action, because there's only one real action sequence. Well, I guess there's two, but they both happen in the third act.
There's more violence. There's also a lot more random nudity. And
What's wrong with that?
I don't have a problem with nudity, Nathan.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, it's not necessary. The scenes that they were in were not necessary to the story. So, like, the scene that
I'm going to disagree.
So, okay.
And I'm willing to talk about that.
Okay, all right. But the scene in Blade Runner where the most predominant nudity occurs is when he's after the snake lady.
Yes.
Okay. Zora or whatever. And that's, pertinent to the plot.
Right. And half of it's out of the shot.
Yeah, and half of the time all you see, like, down to just above her nipple.
Yeah.
You see her for like 5 to 15 seconds actually naked. And then in this movie there's like just random naked like dead replicants in tubes. The only one that I think is actually relevant to the plot is the one that Wallace kills,
that we see be born.
That we see get born, and then he kills her because she can't procreate after he examines her.
That nudity and the small amount of nudity with the AI overlapping the prostitute.
I think that whole scene, other than her bringing her in and then like them overlapping a little bit and then maybe kissing, was extraneous and was not necessary.
See, I like the replicant AI relationship thing. I think if they would have cut some of the fluff, and
I think that was fluff. Like, I think that scene could have happened, but it didn't need to be that long. We didn't have to have 30 seconds of her taking her bra off.
Right.
It wasn't necessary.
No, I mean, well, there's supposed to be. I guess we've stumbled upon another issue, but there's supposed to be a whole love story there between him and the AI, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's relationship, character building, or whatever.
But it doesn't have to be that long.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, that scene can still exist.
Yeah.
In half the time.
Yeah. I mean, maybe
literally just cut it. Just cut it right after they kiss, and then she wakes up next to him, and you have the
probably would work.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
because then all the dialogue's out of the way.
In defense of the nudity.
Okay.
So the part where Wallace kills the replicant.
Yes.
That made sense.
Right.
The replicants in the tubes make sense because it's giving us a better look at how the replicants are created and stuff like that.
Sure.
Like, it opens up more. It opens up more of the world that we didn't get to see before in the first one. Okay. Let's move down the line. When he's looking at the photos outside of that building, that's the type of area they were in. Okay, so you had those glass walls.
Yeah, it was a little bit. It was like a brothel.
It wasn't anything you could see, but still, that advances part of the plot. Which also, this world isn't very much different 30 years from when Harrison Ford lived in it, if you ask me.
No.
The world didn't change a whole lot. Okay.
More holograms.
I guess. I'll give you the one with the giant hologram of Joy.
Right.
Didn't need it.
No, and
absolutely didn't need it.
Until, like 2 minutes before that, where we first saw the backside of that sign. We saw the ass of the pink Joy. None of those other Joys were nude, I don't think.
I think this one was advertising something else. And it was supposed to show connection to him as far as like
Yeah.
with her being
Well,
gone
and
to the character.
right, and they also like if that was something that he actually experienced and not like just like a vision or something, that kind of killed the relationship with Joy
Right.
to me
Yeah.
because she said a bunch of things that Joy said to him.
And calls him Joe.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
which made it seem really like his relationship was fabricated, which it
Right.
was because it's an AI, but it made it less worthwhile to me, and which also kind of fucked up the whole like him losing her right there.
I think that whole scene, maybe now that we're discussing it, is to indicate that it doesn't matter, like him nor the AI, that they were built
that
to
they're
be
both built to do specific purposes.
Yeah, that they were built to be, in
expendable.
the first half of the movie, their relationship, and they're humanized, and then
Right.
you have that one scene, and I don't
Which
know
is
if
after
the
he finds out
intention-
that he's not the child. Too.
Yeah. So then, furthermore, it's just another nail in the coffin on what would be his humanity.
Yeah, but I feel like if he had just been standing there looking at a sign that was dancing or whatever,
Yeah.
that was clothed, would have been, I think it would have been a more significant impact to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, also like that kind of contradicts that one scene. If that is the purpose of that scene, is to dehumanize him even further.
right.
The dehumanizing him at all kind of contradicts the entire plot of the movie with the underground resistance
Yeah,
of
Exactly.
the replicants rising up because now they are more human than the humans.
Right.
So there's actually kind of like a duality tone there that is
Is it intentional
I don't
or is
know.
it just contradictory because they didn't see it that way?
Yeah.
They thought it was poignant or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I
But-
didn't like it.
To give their life for a cause gives them greater meaning. Essentially, that's what they were preaching in that movie.
Right.
And I think that put him at peace with being able to do that because he realized Joy was just AI, and maybe that made him feel essentially kind of the same with being a replicant.
Yeah. But my argument against that would be that if you had just lost your love, right? And
to AI.
well, I mean, whatever.
I'm just pointing it
Yeah.
out.
But he like thought that he loved her. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
He felt that way.
It would be like
So hold on. So he loses his love, right?
Yeah.
And then he's told that he's not real, right?
Right. He also finds out that he's not as special as he thought.
right. Okay. So he's lost the two things that were important to him, but he's given option of something that is important to sacrifice himself to save this resistance. Okay.
Right.
Then he walks out and is shown that the other thing that he thought he lost wasn't real. In my opinion, that would put me in the mind of, well, then it doesn't matter.
Right.
Who cares if I save the resistance or not? I'm just going to fucking fuck off somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm not going to die for them because nothing's real. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Not, galvanize my dedication to it to die for their cause, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get where you're coming from. That's like I didn't think about this when we were watching it just now when we've started talking about it. How detrimental that one scene actually is to the whole movie.
Could be because I can see it the way that Nathan is saying that because the things that he thought were real are not real, but the resistance is that he gravitates to it and works for their cause, or just works for Deckard's cause.
It wasn't about him. It wasn't about the replicants. It was about Deckard's daughter. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Showing that essentially that there can be, basically showing that they can have babies with humans. I mean,
Yeah.
essentially. like showing that there's a next step, maybe even in the evolutionary process, if that's how you want to take it.
Well, I would also say we don't actually get confirmation in this that Deckard isn't a replicant, unless you look at the way he fights with Ryan Gosling. But that could be, he's older and
Lower end model.
lower end model. But there's no actual. So,
but he is. If he was a replicant, then he was also, a open-ended, lifespan when they had not made open-ended lifespan yet. Because Nexus 6 were the newest models, and they had a 4-year lifespan.
And
It wasn't
he
until
ages.
Nexus
Well,
8s
He
where they
ages
had
like
an
that?
open-ended lifespan.
Rachel had an open ended lifespan.
She was a one-off experiment.
Right. So what if they? So there's a whole. So when she says
there's
in the
a
movie
there's a whole line.
that
Okay, go ahead.
Love says to him about
Oh yeah,
you think that what if that was you were supposed to come there, you were supposed to fall in love with her. So there's like an underlining tone to where Tyrell could have made them both
Right.
specifically to figure
For that
out if he
purpose.
could make them procreate together. So, which is a tone that is carried over through this movie, which was one of the things that Ridley Scott had alluded to in like interviews because Ridley wanted it to be less known that Deckard could be a replicant.
right.
He
but
didn't
he
want
wanted
any confirmation.
wanted it to be hinted at very subtly.
Right.
And then in this movie, when he's talking to Wallace does the same thing. He says, whoever designed you, and then like says a bunch of other shit, and then he's like, well, if you were designed,
Yeah.
So he like continues that ambiguity, but is heavy-handed about it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't confirm it, then I'm just gonna say he's not a replicant, because we only know what we know and what we can prove, not what we can speculate.
Right.
That's
But we
what
also
this whole
can't.
podcast is about is
Yeah.
speculation.
But we also can't
I
prove that
said
he's.
what I said.
We also can't prove that he's human.
Until confirmed otherwise, that's what we're led to believe at the beginning of the first Blade Runner movie.
The absence of proof is not the proof of absence.
Well, then everyone's a fucking replicant.
Yep.
That's why they make the tests.
Which
People giving the test are replicants.
one
The
of my
test is a
favorite.
replicant. The
Yeah.
dog was a replicant.
Maybe.
Babies are replicants.
Yeah, I mean, he never confirmed whether or not the dog was
Why don't you ask him?
real or not. So one of my favorite scenes in the movie, talking about the test, is how they do the baseline testing for the replicants
Yeah.
who work for the cops, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love the baseline testing idea, and then I also love the scene where he's like failing it, because it's so there's like so much dissonance, and like it's so fucking over the top and unnerving compared to the rest of the movie. That's one of my favorite scenes.
I think his boss was a replicant.
She could have been.
Yeah.
You didn't see her die. She was definitely human.
Maybe she was a really good replicant at dying. Maybe she didn't suck
She's
at her
the-
death
she's
scenes.
the Ryan Gosling
Was her death
of
scene
the-
terrible?
No, her death scene was really good.
Yeah, I actually really liked it.
Which
Had to
that
be.
is Princess Buttercup.
So
Princess
on
Buttercup's
a
a
little bit
replicant.
lighter note, I just want to go ahead and put Dave Bautista a couple rungs higher on the best wrestler actor list.
You obviously didn't watch Rampage or that Tooth
didn't.
Fairy Game Changer movie. I don't know. He did a couple Disney movies.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That was The Rock, by the way.
Yeah.
that did those. Yeah.
I thought he was great in this movie.
He is fantastic in this movie.
Yeah.
I really enjoy him.
I love Big Dave.
Yeah, Dave's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So I just
He's
wanted to
much
bring that
more
up.
than Drax.
Yeah, well, he's much more than the bee or the animal or whatever.
And we got like 2 more movies coming out this year with him in it. So
fuck yeah. I mean, a couple. They might be shit, but that might probably not his fault.
fuck it. Ryan Reynolds made shitty movies too.
Yeah,
Green Lantern. I mean, they're just out there.
A lot of rom-coms.
Some of those weren't real bad though.
Some of them were awful, though.
Yeah, I liked them.
Was there anything else you guys wanted to run through on this movie? We're gonna rate it.
I mean, I think we already pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, I mean,
That's impressive considering
Yeah.
we can sit down and talk about a movie that was an hour and a half for an hour and a half, but we just watched almost a 3-hour movie, 2 minutes and 44 minutes, or 2 hours 44 minutes, and we did it in less than an hour.
Well, the depth of this movie isn't the same, doesn't have the same well as the first Blade Runner.
yeah, and then all
They're-
the comic book movies, we just go on comic book tangents. So.
Yeah, and a lot of that's
Oh,
us
okay.
finding depth where there probably wasn't any anyway.
A lot of this could have been stripped off this movie, but
I agree, and I mean that's why I'm gonna rate it the way I'm gonna rate it.
that's
So,
why I'm going to rate it the way I'm going to rate it too.
Yeah.
So,
I'll go ahead and go first on this one. I'm gonna give this an 8. I really like Ryan Gosling in this movie. I really like his interactions with Joy, despite how creepy it is sometimes. I really like the actress that plays Joy. I really like Dave Bautista. I really like Harrison Ford. Edward James Olmos was not fantastic in this movie. He didn't do like the accent or any of the really mannerisms that he had in the first movie. But again, 35 years ago.
was he wearing a hat?
No,
What
he
the
had
fuck?
a ponytail.
I was going to say.
But like I said earlier, like this movie tries really hard to be a slow burn, and the fire just goes out way too often. But it's beautiful. We didn't talk about that very much. The CG and everything is really good. A lot of fantastic looking sets and everything in this movie. The acting was good. I like the plot. I wanted the swerve that I thought I had figured out, but it ended up being half that and not what the movie was trying to spoon feed us. So whatever. I'm gonna give it an 8. Russell.
I'm going to start writing down my ratings before you go because I'm also going to give this an 8. I think this is a really good homage to the first Blade Runner movie. Even with its issues, sequels are for some reason so hard to do that I feel like this is at least successful.
I think part of that is trying to outdo the original. So then
Yeah.
you just get caught up in trying to outdo it instead of asking if you should outdo it.
Right.
Instead of just making an original idea that connects with the story of the previous one.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you've already written out a trilogy or something,
Right.
you know. So sometimes that's just how it works.
Yeah. You also, I mean, for it being a different director, I mean, I know I said Ridley Scott was involved quite a bit, but even for it being a different director, I felt like there was an updated tone, but overall, like the tone was still, it still feels set like it's in a Blade Runner universe. And I really enjoy that. You know, I really enjoy Ryan Gosling in this movie. Batista, like you said, was awesome. 99% of the acting in this movie is fantastic. There's only a few things that I said I had an issue with. And then there are quite a few practical effects that were still taken advantage of and used for the movie, which I really appreciate. The only effects that I had any issue with were Jared Leto's iBots that looked like they were on top of the screen as opposed
like
to
weird floating Wiimotes that
yeah,
didn't have any depth of field to them.
yeah.
Fucking Wiimotes.
That shit was fucking weird.
I forgot about that. 7.5.
And then the plot, I really enjoy the plot. I love that it's like it feels like a noir mystery. But I wish the mystery would have taken a back seat to the characters. But, that's why it's an 8. So,
All right, Nathan, what you got?
This movie was a serving-sized banana with a double peel. It's everything you want in a movie, but it takes too fucking long to get to it. I too I love Harrison Ford and everything he does. And I liked Ryan Gosling in this movie. And there's a good movie in there. It's just shrouded with a lot of shit. And it's just how they advance the point.
Yeah.
So, yep. Serving size banana with a double peel.
Speaking of bananas, I got some that are going bad. Do you want them to make some banana bread?
I can do that.
Okay.
And the reason I'm going to use food is because when you watch a movie, you consume that movie.
Yeah.
It just feels
With
good.
your eyes and your soul.
Yeah. Sometimes it'll make you cry. And sometimes you've left afterward with really bad gas. I didn't get that in this movie, like I said, but that's what it is.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode of DQP Does. We did Blade Runner 2049 tonight. I don't know what's going to be next. We might continue on the Cyberpunk path. We might work on a couple different other series that we've been talking about. So
We're not going to do The Notebook.
No, we're not going to do The Notebook.
Oh.
But speaking of The Notebook, like Tears in the Rain, we're out of here. Nathan just got scared by the cat.
Did he scared the... No, it was my dog.
Oh, it was
He
your
ran
dog?
into my
Oh, okay.
side.
There's so many animals in here.
It's a menagerie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start writing my rating the words. Edit.
Stroke it time.
This has been a production of the Drafty Quarters Podcast Network.